What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to a brand new episode of Caffeinate today for April the 25th of 2019. My name is Samuel Adams, and welcome to today's show. Of course, as always, I hope this one does find you well, and if you are brand new to the show, this is a daily gaming news podcast in which I bring you the hottest gaming news from around the industry, and I pack it up in one tight, neat little show for you to enjoy 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, live at 7 a.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/TheSamuelAdams. Now, of course, if you did want to watch later via YouTube or podcast services around the world, the show is also available in these formats. However, today, we have all but a confirmation that Modern Warfare 4 is coming via a video from a Call of Duty event. Now, I will say I'm not going to be playing the video, so if that's what you're looking for, then by all means, I will link it down below, and you can find it there. However, I did want to discuss what exactly is heard, and also some very heavy-handed hints as seen via Eurogamer on Twitter, who likely has some kind of inside information. Now, on top of that, we will also be discussing more about crunch within the game developers section of the space, because Respawn's CEO has spoken out about sticking to seasonal updates, because a big conversation has been happening around a game called Apex Legends, specifically the fact that updates and new content seem to be few and far between, but there is a good reason for that, and so we will dive into that topic right after we talk about Modern Warfare 4. Now, of course, the brand new Fortnite event is going live today. We will talk about what that means. Of course, Thanos is back, and a couple of Avengers weapons are also available for use. The Nintendo Switch has passed the Nintendo 64 in lifetime sales, and, of course, if you did want to get in on some more Nintendo action, Mario Kart Tour, a brand new mobile game, is going to be coming out on phones next month in beta, and we will talk about that and when you can pre-order, preload, whatever you want to call it, for the brand new Mario Kart game. But that pretty much is our lineup for the day. Again, if you are brand new, welcome on to today's show, and without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. People are convinced they can hear Modern Warfare 4 in this video from a Call of Duty event is a return to the Modern Warfare series ahead. It very well could be. It's been 8 years since the last Modern Warfare shooter, but the 2019 edition of Call of Duty may take the series back there. That is the rumor making the rounds after a video of 4 U.S. football players getting an early preview of the game turned up on YouTube. 4 players, Riley Ridley, Christian Miller, Jaquez Patrick, and Tajay Sharp, posted about the event on Instagram and were able to avoid revealing anything about it except that it's super cool and lit. Ah, the kids and their lingo. But a short video clip of the play session, slowed for clarity, excuse me, not charity, we're not raising any money right now, but a short video clip of the play session, slowed for clarity, has an awful lot of people convinced that someone in the background says the words kill streak, and here's the big one, Modern Warfare 4, and of course that video is going to be linked down below. Personally, says the author, I'm not convinced. One of the comments on YouTube says it's probably just pareidolia, and after Googling what that is, I'm inclined to agree. I hear the words because I'm seeing the subtitles. Even with that, the author says, I don't really pick up Modern, just Warfare 4, and after I took a break and then listened without watching, it was much more difficult to pick up on anything coherent. On the other hand, years of that rock and roll music has destroyed my hearing, so maybe the words clearer are, of course, maybe potentially Modern Warfare 4. But is this actually going to be something that is concrete? Is Modern Warfare 4 actually the next Call of Duty game? It very well could be, and it makes sense because, again, Infinity Ward is this year's Call of Duty developer, and I do think that it is very possible we could be seeing it without a doubt. Now, on top of that, we also saw Eurogamer kind of making a couple of hints over there on Twitter, specifically through one of their newest articles that says this year's Call of Duty has not been announced, but some football players have had it. So essentially, you have the same kind of story over there on Eurogamer, and theirs has 4 paragraphs towards the beginning of their coverage. The first word of the first paragraph, modern. The second, war. Then third, fair. And then 4. Now, you could read very far into this, and this could very well just be something that Tom Phillips did for fun, for shits and giggles, as the kids say. But it looks like you could be getting a hint. And so the question is, do we actually have any kind of valid information that Modern Warfare 4 is the next Call of Duty? Nothing concrete, but it does make sense. Again, the mention of kill streaks is nothing that really identifies any kind of Call of Duty, because that can be clearly heard in the video, which again I have linked it down below. But it very well could lead to a Call of Duty that could be a brand new Modern Warfare, and I think it could be a pretty good fit, to be honest with you. Over the course of the past 5 to 6 years, Call of Duty has begun to decline, in my opinion, in the popularity among the core gaming demographic. Mainly because other better games have come out, and of course we've all grown up a good bit, but at the same time, I think that a return to Modern Warfare 4 leaves a lot of potential for a good story, because some of the best stories in Call of Duty history were heard via Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2, and arguably Modern Warfare 3. But on top of that, people just want a regular boots-on-the-ground Modern Warfare game. No pun in, like, I didn't mean to actually say Modern Warfare. I mean, like, people just want a modern combat kind of thing, not the mobile game. You know what I'm saying? People want to be in a modern time. And I think that's pretty much what we are going to be getting with this year's game, and that's a very exciting thing to be saying. And now I think a lot of games are going to be following suit with that different kind of time frame, or with that different kind of time period, because, again, Battlefield has experimented with Modern Warfare 1, or excuse me, World War 1. A lot of wars going on. Battlefield has experimented with World War 1 and World War 2 for their past 2 games, and I think that people are just ravenously hungry for some kind of modern Battlefield game, whether it be Bad Company 3 or just going back to the modern war. People just want it, you know, and I think that's pretty much where Modern Warfare 4 is coming into play. So we could be seeing it at this year's E3, or potentially just a little bit before that, because that's pretty much when they usually begin to tease what's happening for the 2019 Call of Duty, or 20, whatever year it might be, Call of Duty. But you could be seeing this one around October or November, and it could be a good time. Also, to Decky and Barbosa in the chat, welcome on in. Glad to see you. But with that being said, that game is a pretty good ways out. Let's talk about Apex Legends, because a lot of people have been talking about the fact that there are literally no updates coming out for Apex Legends. A couple of patches here and there to fix some balance issues. They added Octane and a couple of other characters, but at the same time seems to be very much so lacking as compared to other Battle Royale games. But the Respawn CEO has said sticking to seasonal updates is better for Apex Legends devs. There are a lot of people that are like, hey, where's the weekly updates? Fortnite does this, and it's like, we're not set up to do that. We never intended to. And that is Respawn CEO Vince Zampella talking about finding a balance between player appetites and efficient development. Apex Legends' sudden announcement and launch a few months back saw the game get a significant amount of attention out of the gate, but despite temptations to ramp up content production or hiring after that initial boom, Respawn CEO Vince Zampella says it was best for the team to stick to its original pacing plans for new content. Speaking during the Games Beat Summit this week, Zampella explains that Respawn always planned Apex Legends' new content as season-by-season releases, a decision that was influenced by a desire to maintain a strong quality of life for the devs working on the game. It's a conversation that occurred the same day Polygon published a piece detailing crunch at Fortnite dev Epic Games, crunch that many devs say was driven by a constant push to introduce new content and fixes into the BR game. While Zampella doesn't mention that piece or the grievances of Epic devs specifically, the conversation does steer towards Respawn's thought process when faced with similar temptations. Our intention was to always be seasonal, so we're kind of staying with that, says Zampella. The thought was, hey, we kind of have something that's blowing up here. Do we want to start trying to drop more content? But I think you look at quality of life for our team. We don't want to overwork them and drop that quality of the assets we're putting out. We want to try and raise that. Zampella admits that there is a lot on the team that's still trying to figure out in terms of content pacing, a lot of which will be trial and error as Apex Legends progresses beyond its current first season. So far, he notes that the length of seasons was a total guess, and it's too early to tell if it's a guess that's worked in their favor. He does note that they've already decided one season was a bit lighter on the new content than Respawn would have liked, and the team is working to correct that in the next season rather than going on-the-fly changes. All the resources on the team are focused on getting this game in a better position so it plays well, so we have enough content so the seasons are better. And that's pretty much where the story sits right now. But this is a really good approach to take to this, and I think that's what I've seen a lot of the discussion around on Twitter around, is that although there is a lack of content in Apex Legends right now, although the updates have been few and far between, and when they do come out, they're relatively light, the quality of life of devs is ultimately the bottom line here. That's what really, truly does matter. And I did want to point out what Zach Gage on Twitter actually said. These are two Polygon articles published just a couple of days apart, one on April the 23rd, which of course was yesterday's Epic Games crunch story, and then one on the 12th of April that says Epic Legends has lost much of its huge momentum. And this is where many developers find themselves. Okay, so the gaming audience, the gaming community, is ravenous for new content, and they have been spoiled because of the update cycle of games like Fortnite, where you do get weekly updates that continuously pump out new stuff and keep you entertained, keep you coming back, and continuously drive you to continue playing their game. And so whenever you get used to that, it's incredibly easy to assume that's what all developers are capable of, and that's what all developers are willing to do, and that's just not something you can assume. And so whenever you have these articles coming out that talk about Apex Legends losing momentum, this is literally painting a picture in which if I was a developer, I would say, oh shit. Like, I've got to sit down at my desk and I've got to work until I get brand new content out because we are beginning to lose. And that is a very unhealthy approach to take to game development, because whenever you work continuously, although the game may be completed, you will lose passion, you will lose drive, you will lose your life, essentially, when it comes down to it. And I think that's the conversation that's being had right now. And of course, it sounds like Vince Zampella is very much so taking a really good approach to how they are doing seasonal updates, what's happening with seasonal updates, and I think that it could turn out to be a pretty good setup going forward, because it's kind of like the tortoise and the hare, you know? If you begin to rush off, then you might end up failing in the long run, and that's very well what we could see from something like Apex Legends. I apologize, my camera has frozen, and I don't know why it does that. But with that being said, it does look like things are beginning to change over there for Apex Legends. Could be some new content coming down the pipe in the next couple of weeks. Very exciting times, because again, the game itself is great, but if you were to pump out weekly updates, would it be better? Potentially, you know, depending on the quality of those updates, and of course, it would keep people coming back to it and keep the community happy, but at what cost? You know, is it really worth sacrificing the livelihoods of your developers and the happiness of your developers to get more content out into the game that very well might not pan out in the long run? I think not. I think not. But again, a lot of conversation happening around this very, very, you know, controversial kind of take on Twitter right now. Specifically yesterday, a couple of NetherRealm developers actually began to speak out about the poor working conditions over there behind the scenes for games like Mortal Kombat 9 and Mortal Kombat 11. And of course, that is just a story that is beginning to flourish. Rumors circulating that there was somebody that died at their desk while working. Just, oh my god, you know, it's like these conversations need to be had. And again, I can't verify if that story is valid, but at the same time, it's not even a thing that I should be able to think about and say, well, maybe, you know, we have to get the gaming industry to a point in which people can sit down and work 8 to 10 hours, maybe if they're doing overtime, getting fairly compensated for it, getting paid adequately to begin with, and then they can just go home. That's what it comes down to. Make games development a genuine regular job, and that's going to be a difficult uphill battle, because again, it's a weird situation, and so we will continue talking about it right here on Caffeinate as more of these stories do come out. I would assume that I might be reading something to you tomorrow about what's happening at NetherRealm, but we will see what happens, because these stories seem to be growing in popularity and in number. But Fortnite, let's talk about that, because again, you know, Epic Games over there slaving away, lets you fight Thanos with Avengers weapons. Grab Hawkeye's bow, Thor's Stormbreaker axe, Captain America's shield, and Iron Man's repulsors, and go up against Thanos. Legend has it that you must be truly worthy to be able to wield Thor's hammer, but thanks to Epic Games, all you actually need is a free copy of Fortnite VR. That's right, with Avengers Endgame finally hitting theaters, the online shooter is hosting another Marvel-themed crossover. You'll be asked to either help Thanos and his Chitauri? What is that? By the way, I haven't seen any of these movies. Invade the island and find the 6 Infinity Stones, or wield the MCU's most powerful weapons in an attempt to stop him. The Endgame event arrives as part of today's version 8.50 update via a limited game mode. Upon spawn, you'll either be assigned to the hero team or Team Thanos, and if you are a member of the Chitauri, you will be armed with a laser rifle, anti-build grenades, and a jetpack. You'll be thrust onto the island and tasked with finding all 6 Infinity Stones, the first of which will turn you into Thanos. Like before, Thanos' power includes a destructive punch, powerful laser beam, and a ground pound-like jump that can damage enemies from below. Every time an Infinity Stone is located, Thanos' abilities will grow, and the Chitauri will gain more health. The Red Stone doubles health and shield, the Soul Stone activates Siphon, boosting Thanos' shield only, and the Mind Stone will double his jump height. The Space and Time Stones triples the ground pound area and increase knockbacks, respectively, while increasing damage in the process, and the Power Stone boosts Thanos' laser damage by 6 times. If you find yourself on the hero team, you'll start with a treasure map that Epic says will lead to a Mythic Avengers item. However, you will be able to find other Avengers Avengers weapons inside chest. As you can see from the trailer, you'll be able to access Hawkeye's bow, Thor's Stormbreaker axe, Captain America's shield, and Iron Man's repulsors. The hero team's task is to stop Thanos and his goons from finding the stones and then wiping out Thanos directly. During the game, both teams will drop back onto the island after being killed. However, once all of the stones have been found, heroes will no longer respawn. If you do manage to kill Thanos, another Chitauri will become him after a brief period, unless he is the last player left. As always, the game will need to be updated before the new Endgame LTM becomes available, and it will only be playable for a short amount of time. And so if you are a fan of the MCU, you better dive in and check it out, because hey, it's limited time mode. You know what that means? Limited time only. So this sounds pretty cool. You know, I think that everybody was kind of expecting something big, and this certainly does seem to be big. And of course, limited time modes just bring people back into Fortnite, and of course are very fun whenever you do dive into them. I will say that I re-downloaded Fortnite yesterday, and I deleted it immediately after playing 2 matches because I cannot stand that anymore. But again, it is still one of the most popular games in the world. Millions around the world still playing. And of course, tons of content creators going to be streaming this. Ninja, tons of other people like Courage, Tim the Tapman, I'm sure, are going to be getting in on this. So if you did want to check it out, then you can check it out on Twitch, Mixer, Facebook, or you could even dive in and give it a look for yourself if you might be one of those strange people that likes to sit down and play games instead of watching them. I'm just kidding. But the Nintendo Switch is doing very well. Speaking of which, you can play Fortnite on that. Past the N64 in lifetime sales, according to a report. Next up, the SNES. Nintendo sold 2.47 million Switch consoles in the 3 months leading up to March 31st, 2019, bringing lifetime sales to 34.74 million. That's a tad disappointing for the House of Mario, which moved 2.93 million units in the same period last year. Nintendo sold 16.95 million consoles in the 2018 fiscal year, just missing its annual sales target of 17 million, a figure that the company had revised down from 20 million last quarter. There are some upsides, though. The Nintendo Switch has surpassed the N64 lifetime sales and stands a good chance of topping the SNES, which managed 49.1 million in the next financial year. In the latest earnings report, Nintendo was quick to highlight its always strong software sales. Smash Bros. Ultimate and Pokemon Let's Go have sold 13.81 and 10.63 million units respectively, and Nintendo says 23 titles have now hit the all-important 1 million milestone. These numbers help the company to report revenue of 1.2 trillion yen, roughly about $10.7 billion for the fiscal year, up from 1.06 trillion or roughly 9.4 billion 12 months prior. Operating profit, meanwhile, hit 249.7 billion yen, roughly 2.2 billion, as compared to 177.5 billion yen or roughly 1.6 billion a year ago. What you need to know from that, Nintendo is still doing very well. Congratulations. It's not just the Switch making money, though. The aging Nintendo 3DS and 2DS finally managed 2.55 million sales in the fiscal year, while the NES and the SNES Classic Editions posted a combined 5.95 million in sales, vastly outselling the 2DS and the 3DS. The company's smartphone portfolio, which includes Fire Emblem Heroes, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, and Dragalia Lost, pulled in a revenue of 46 billion yen, a 17% increase over the previous year. Nintendo's mobile library will be boosted by Dr. Mario, a game co-developed with Japanese messaging titan Line, and Mario Kart Tour later this summer, which we will talk about here in a moment. Today, Nintendo set itself a reasonable target of 18 million Switch sales for the next financial year. To hit that number, the company will need a steady stream of new, exclusive, and high-quality games. Of course, you have Mario Maker 2 and Fire Emblem Three Houses just on the horizon, but of course, Pokemon Sword and Shield, Link's Awakening, and more are also coming down the pipe, along with rumors of a brand new model of the Nintendo Switch and potentially two, with one coming later in the year that is potentially, again, allegedly, reportedly, other enhancing words, a bit more beefy as compared to the regular Nintendo Switch. So we will see what happens with this, but again, congratulations, surpassing the N64. Pretty big milestone, I would say, considering just how small amount of time the Nintendo Switch itself has been on the market. But again, no shocks here, because the Nintendo Switch is phenomenal. You know, I might not necessarily be the target demographic, but for those that are on the go, for those that just like to play, you know, basic games, for those that like Nintendo, I mean, really, when it comes down to it, this is just one of the best, if not the best console they have ever pumped out. And so to those purchasing, congratulations, you have a genuinely awesome console that has a lot of good things coming from it. And one more thing I will say about the entire generation for the Nintendo Switch, This console has helped push Nintendo towards a future that I don't think they would be even contemplating otherwise, because they have become one of the most gamer-friendly companies over the course of the past year by working with Microsoft to bring potentially Xbox Live to the Nintendo Switch, to make crossplay something that is 100% possible, even pushing to get crossplay in Fortnite with Sony and beginning to open up that door. Through the Nintendo Switch, a lot of ground has been broken, a lot of barriers have been crossed, and that's a big deal. That's awesome. And so I think that's really where the Nintendo Switch brings value, on top of it just being a genuinely awesome gaming console. And so if you did want to dive in and check one out, again, starting at $299, you can get a Nintendo Switch, but a brand new model could be on the way in just a couple of weeks. So you might want to stay tuned, because you never know. However, let's say you don't want to buy a Nintendo Switch, but you do want to play Mario Kart. Congratulations, because Mario Kart Tour is getting a beta arriving next month on phones. Start prepping those green shells, because they are going to be rolling down the track. It's almost here. Today, Nintendo announced a closed beta test for Mario Kart Tour, a long-delayed mobile spinoff that we currently know diddly squat about. Seriously, Nintendo has not released a single screenshot. The sneak preview will be available to Android users in the US and Japan between May 22nd and June 4th. The final game, of course, will also be available on iOS devices. If you are intrigued by the title, you can sign up using the QR code on the official Mario Kart Tour website. The long-delayed app is scheduled to come out in summer 2019, the same time as Dr. Mario, a new game co-developed with messaging titan Lime. And so, if you did want to dive in and check it out, again, that QR code is up on the official Mario Kart Tour website, and I think this is incredibly exciting, because if there's any game in the Nintendo lineup and in the Nintendo family that could work on mobile, it's probably Mario Kart. It just simply will work, and of course, you know, as gross as it is, as inappropriate as it may be, whenever I think about mobile games, can you play Mario Kart while you're pooping? Absolutely. That time frame to get a couple of rounds in is absolutely within the realm of possibility. I mean, it fits what I need, and I will without a doubt be downloading it. And potentially, I'm not confirming, but I will likely be playing it in that kind of position. So again, if you do want to dive into it, should be coming out in summer 2019. In full on iOS and Android, but a beta coming next month for those that do want to get into it and are lucky enough to actually dive in. However, that does round out today's episode of Caffeinate. Of course, if you are brand new, welcome on in, and I do hope you enjoyed what you saw. You can drop me a like down below if you are watching on YouTube. But of course, the show is hosted 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on twitch.tv/TheSamuelAdams, and I appreciate those joining me live in the chat. It's always good to show you guys the news while you watch live. But until tomorrow, you guys have a fantastic rest of your Thursday, and peace.